We're very pleased tonight to have you. Thank you very much for making the effort. We really appreciate it, and so do the companies. Uh, with us tonight to start off is Sylvain Lebert, CEO, President of 1844 Resource. You might have known him in the past as Gezbeg Copper, still a copper play, and he's still working on some things. So, with further notice, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna forget my piton. Hi. Most of you know me from way back. As you know, I was VP at Renmark Financial a long time ago. Then we started this company back in 2011. It was a private company from 2009 to 2011. We had properties in the Gaspé region. We drilled in 2009 with success. We drilled in 2011 with success. Then the copper price went down the drain. So we kept the company going. We still have our properties, and so I've been in this company for the last 12 years now. So bear with me. I'll explain to you the whole thing. So our forward-looking statement. So basically what we're looking for is copper. We've been minded in copper. We've been offered in strategic metals, but we've been offered all kinds of projects in the past. Even some people came up to us. They wanted us to go in cryptocurrency. We didn't believe in it, in our sense, because we don't know it. So we decided to stay in copper. Even with the prices that were low, we knew that at a certain point, with all the governments that wanted to go carbon free within 2030, we knew that copper was going to react at a certain point. So it's the third most consumed industrial metal in the world, and it's critical for the generation of solar, hydro, thermal, and wind energy. And that's why I started first, because our friend Peter is going to be following up with the technology of solar and energy and all these things. Electric vehicle is a big, big part of copper in the future. So this is a chart from this morning. As you can see, price of copper went all the way down in 2020, even worse than that in 2013 and 14. It went down to $1.99. So there was no interest in our sector. We were able to survive and maintain our company and maintain our properties and make sure that we didn't lose what was our core asset. Then what's happening too is that when I started in 2011, the meetings we were going to, or the conventions we were going to in copper, they were all saying that copper would start going down in 2021, that the grades would go down to about 0.60 by 2021. In 2028, the grades were already at 0.32, because the price of copper was so low that people or companies that were in production, what they were doing is they were mining their high grades and keeping their low grades. So right now, all the high grades in Chile, all the high grades in certain countries have been mined, and now we're stuck with low grades. And plus the reserves, we're looking tomorrow morning, you shut down all the copper mines, you got 3 weeks of copper in stock. That's all. And zinc is the same thing, and nickel is the same thing. So renewable energy, solar. Well, I don't have my ears anymore. So solar is definitely going to be on a growth. This is 2030. This is 2050. Same thing in windmill on land, windmill on offshore. So the demand's going to increase dramatically in the next couple of years. Oh, there's the rest of my presentation. So copper is going to be for infrastructure. We all know, I don't know if you know a lot of people in car dealerships. I have the privilege of having a brother-in-law who has a Hyundai dealership. And let me tell you, he's not selling any carbon cars anymore. He's selling, everything is electric cars. He's selling twice as much electric cars per month that he's selling conventional cars. So the demand is going to increase dramatically in the near future. The demand for infrastructure is going to increase dramatically in the future. Technologies like they have will be in demand in the future. So this is where we're going towards. Sophie, I'm having a problem with my presentation. So just to give you an idea, in electric vehicles, we're looking, I'll give you the numbers. Right now, a conventional car, let's say we take a Beamer Series 3. A Beamer Series 3 has 35 pounds of copper. If I put the same Beamer Series 3 as an electric vehicle, we're looking at 125 pounds. So the demand in copper is going to be incredible. Same thing in nickel. The demand in nickel is going to increase. Same thing in zinc. Today, all the cars are dipped in zinc. There's going to be a lot of zinc in demand in the future. Did I do something wrong? Thank you. Magic. So I'll go back. And I'm only talking about cars. We're not talking about hybrid electric bus. We all know about Lion here in Quebec. There's going to be increase in that sector too. So that's where technology like Tantalus is going to be important in the future. So our main thing was location. So we've been working in the Gaspé Peninsula for the last 10 years, 12 years. Myself, I've been working in the Gaspé Peninsula for the last 20 years. So, because we had another company prior to this one. So it's home to the largest mine in North America for 45 years. The Gaspé copper mine was in production under Noranda for 45 years. It produced 141 million tons at a grade of 0.85. We're looking last March, Cisco Metal announced that they were acquiring the old Gaspé copper mine. I can tell you that, and I was part of that transaction. In 2012, when I got in the company, my first challenge was to go and acquire the Gaspé copper mine. But we went through years with Glencore. We started with Xstrata, then we went to Glencore. And what happened at a certain point, I didn't have the backbones to be able to go forward with the acquisition of the Gaspé copper mine. Everything was there. So I brought in Bob Wares from Cisco, and then they did the evaluation of the project, and that's how it went to Cisco, and they are actually right now working on the project. And it's probably going to be reopening the Gaspé copper mine within the next 5 to 6 years. On April 28 last year, they announced the resource that was still in the ground, 456 million tons at 0.31%. Anywhere in Chile, Western Canada, this is the size of 2 to 3 mines. It's not one mine, it's 2 to 3 mines. A mine usually can go anywhere between 100 to 150 million tons, depending where it is. You're looking at a project that has 456 million tons. Why? That's one of the reasons why we're so enthusiastic about the Gaspé region. The other point is that since then, they drilled a lot. Now we're looking at a resource of 1 billion tons at 0.50. So it's huge. It's a big, big monster. So it's still underexplored, and we're still working on it. Right there, I have to go. Okay. So now to situate you where we are, we have this project. It's La Cristal. La Cristal is a very basic, very grassroots project that we have. We acquired in 2019, and we haven't worked on it. but eventually we'll probably go and do some work on it. We have native copper that we worked last summer. Native copper is composed of 325 claims. It's a greenstone belt. It was known, but it was abandoned by Nystar, a company from Switzerland, that actually they acquired those projects because they were part of another company that had 2 mines in production. They wanted the mines. They wanted nothing to do with exploration. So during the years, we saw claims falling down, so we acquired the whole project. So native copper, as its name, there's certain sectors where we actually grab rocks from the ground and have chunks of copper in it. So it's really high grade. It was known in a certain area. So what we did last summer, we decided not to work the sector that is already known and rich. Since it was our first year, we decided to go totally on the northeast side of the project. We wanted to understand how everything came to place. And that's why, if you look at these horizons that are going this way, they come directly onto the ridge zone. So we wanted to know if there was any values in this sector. Now that we know that we found little values, but we definitely understood what was going on, we decided to go this way. So next summer, we're going here, and probably there's going to be anywhere between 2,000 meters of drilling to 3,000 meters of drilling. It's very rich. We're looking at zones, 12% copper, 14% copper, 15% copper. There's a drill hole there at 5 meters with 5.34% copper. So it's a very, very rich zone. Now, what, can't play too much with it. What we have to understand, or what we have to prove, is that we have tonnage. It's nice to have grades, but if we don't have the tonnage, it's not worth anything. What we need now is to prove that we have tonnage on this thing. Again, I'm split. So come to the Vortex project. The Vortex project, Sophie, Vortex project is the one that started it all in 2012, 2009, 2011. This project, this way.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. This project, we drilled in this sector. We got 29 meters at surface with 0.94% copper. A lot of people are saying, yeah, but you don't have 1%. Give you an idea, there's a mine in production in BC right now. They're producing at 0.12%. So grades are not that much. Do you have the tonnage? If you have the tonnage, grades will come with it. Even if the grades are low, it means it's a little bit like Canadian Malartic. Low grade, high tonnage, and it pays off. So we're having an issue on this one, and I'm not gonna lie to you. The caribou zone, because there's caribous in the Gaspé region, for those who don't know it, there's 34 of them. The caribou zone used to be on this side. In 2014, they decided to bring it down to this level. And in 2019, they decided to bring it down to this level. I have the permission to work on the projects. It's just that the natives decided that we're not allowed to go and work on it. I'm in discussion. I hate lying, so I might as well be truthful about it. Right now, I'm negotiating with the gouvernement. I'm negotiating with the Micmacs. We're coming to a solution probably where we're going to be working on this project within the next 18 months. So this is the most interesting one, and this is the reason why. We're 22 kilometers west of the Murdochville mine, the Gaspé copper mine. What you're seeing here is the Gaspé copper mine. What you're looking at is the horizons. This is the Forillon. This is the Indian Point. These zones are known to be anywhere between 1% and 3% copper. These zones are anywhere between 2 and 4% copper. The open pit in Gaspé Copper used to be here. The mill used to be on top of it. Reason why Noranda closed is that they couldn't access the mineral anymore because the mill was on top of it. So in 1999, when they closed, they shut it down. Everything was dismantled. Now it's open for a super open pit. The 456 million tons I talked to you before is here. That's the section. And the other portion that I was talking to you about that brings it up to about 1 billion tons is this sector here. So they have resource there, they have resource there, they have the horizons that we understand. And when you come to our property, the same horizons that are found at the Gaspé Copper Mine are found on our property. So what we suspect, we know that we have a porphyry at depth from the geophysics. So the porphyry at depth is right where, close to where we drilled in 2011 and the results of 2012. So that's why we want to go back and we want to drill this thing, because we might have another Murdochville 22 kilometers west of it.
You haven't drilled anything since 2012?
No, the money wasn't there. Copper was at $1.99. So we raised money to be able to maintain our properties, but we couldn't raise enough to be able to go and drill it. And even with that, all the board and our advisory board decided that it wasn't time to drill. When came time to drill, that's where we had that issue. Are you playing with my, hey? We're trying to have the permits to drill. That's why I'm negotiating with the natives and the government at the same time. The government is willing to do something, but as you know, native are using a lot of things to do for on the political side right now, and I don't blame them.
Right.
But they're using a lot of things. Now they're using the caribous in our sector.
Yeah.
Okay, they're trying to stop forestry, so they're trying to stop the economy, and so a lot of people in the Gaspé region are saying, "You're stopping the economy; it's a problem." So that's why we're negotiating. Did you push me? The Mi'kmaq. Well, we employ them when they want to work. That's the problem.
Right now they don't want to work.
So, you want me off or?
No, just really like
La Cristal, I spoke to you, is very grassroots. So to give you an idea, skip this thing. There's me, Bernard Olivier Martel. This guy logged over 500 million meters of drill cores in his career. He's the one actually, he's the QP for Ressources Nouveau Monde. He's the one who actually logged all the carats for Ressources Nouveau Monde. He's the one that was behind Dianor, which wasn't a great success, but anyway. He's got a lot of experience. I've been asked to lend it to other companies when they're looking for copper. He's got the knowledge. He's a great, great geologist. Andrew Davidson is my CFO. We've been working since 2011 together. Andrew is also president and CEO of another company called Royal Helium, where they're in the helium sector in Saskatchewan and Alberta. And I'm part of that company too. I'm on the board. Tom McNeil is chairman of and president of 49 North, a fund out of Saskatoon. He's also president and CEO of another company called Eros Exploration with Ron Nedolevsky. Ron Nedolevsky discovered SK Creek and Beaver Creek. So the experience around our board and our management goes way, way, way back. This guy, I won't talk to you about him. Nobody knows him. Hey, Rick. Yeah. Bob Wares, the instigator behind Canadian Malartic, the guy who convinced everybody in Quebec that low grade, high tonnage could exist and brought in Canadian Malartic, and they built the Cisco with Sean Rosen and John Brzezinski. He's actually the CEO and chairman of Cisco Metal that took over the Gaspé copper mine. Alain Belin, I think a lot of people here know him. On my advisory board, recently, it's not even in my presentation, got my friend Louis David here, who's going to be helping me in the marketing sector. So our share structure, sorry, I forgot to change it. We're 79 million shares, fully diluted 99 million shares. We have Fruch Express Grabber, they own 16% of the company. 49 North with our chairman, they own 10%. Management, we own 22%. Friends and family, 20%. And institution, about 3%. An institution, to give you an idea, 3% is Marquest. A lot of people are saying, yeah, but Marquest, flow-through fund, they'll dump in the market. I talk to Glenn Drudge, I would say about every 2 weeks, Louis. The guy wants to know where we're going. He had some shares to sell at a certain point for cash. He needed some cash. He called us up. We fixed him up with somebody else. He was bought out. So it's nice to have an institution, but you have to talk to them. If you don't talk to them, they'll screw you. So that's it. Phone address, everything. Yes, sir.
So how much cash do you have on hand?
Right now, we're sitting on cash equivalent and cash about 600,000.
So if everyone, I'm just going to ask the questions and I'll come by with the mic. So if you
Did
just
I
want to
do?
raise, no, you're 100% fine. If you wouldn't just mind raising your question, your hand, that would be great.
Here's your question.
Next.
So when are you going to do your next private placement? If you want to drill the 3,000 meters, you're going to have to raise quite a bit of
Okay.
capital for us.
Okay, I'll say something.
And where will it be directed?
I'll tell you something right now. When we booked this event, there was supposed to be a press release coming out either last Friday or beginning of this week. It has been delayed. It's going to be probably in the next 48 to 72 hours. There's not much I can say more. This will change the face of the company. And it's just that when we go into the market, you want to know how much we're raising? We're raising 5 million. So, but right now, I can't say where the stock will be. I can't say anything because we have to announce what we have to announce. But right now, we're not announcing anything.
Okay. So when he does make the announcement, we will make sure everyone in the room gets a
Yeah.
press release. And if they have any questions, they can follow up.
Because definitely, it's a game changer for the company.
And when do you see the 43-101 coming out? It's going to take a year or a year and a half?
43-101, I can have it tomorrow morning at 43. It doesn't mean anything. A 43-101 doesn't mean anything. I can have a 43-101 on a project that I haven't drilled or worked on, actually. A 43-101 with an inferred resource, that I can tell you that we already have. We had one on a project called La Carsono that we sold for $100,000 and $500,000 in equity. But there's 43-101. A lot of people think it's worth a lot. A 43-101 is only a paper that qualifies you as a mining company. Then you have to go in PEA, you have to go in other things. That's totally different.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've heard roundabout way that you're going to raise money, you're going to do this. You said you're going to drill this year, right?
Yep.
Do you have the money to drill this year? That's all I want to know.
No. No. I told you, I'm not lying.
And to do that, to drill, how are you going to raise that money?
I can't say anything.
One second. So he's going
I
to
haven't
give you
changed.
the mic so we can ask the question.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I'm not.
Fruch Express, it's a grocery company in Germany?
Yes, it is.
So what
For
are they-
everybody that wants to know, Fruch Express Grabber is a grocery company, a fruit and vegetable distributor, the largest. It's even bigger than Loblaws.
And copper?
They have a family, it's a privately owned company,
I
right?
see that, yeah.
The family, the Grabber family, they have 5 funds.
Family office, okay.
Family funds. They have one in oil and gas. They have one in copper. They have one in production, and they even acquired a lab in Calgary last year. And we're actually, since they acquired that lab, we have an agreement with them. Whenever we send
Big bucks. You're right
big
there,
bucks.
man. Okay.
big bucks,
We have one more
and
question.
and Rick is a shareholder, big bucks.
Can you explain to us the why the name 1844 resource?
1844, pretty simple. Is when the natives asked us to change name, because our name was Gaspé, and there's a village, native copper, native copper, a native village in the Gaspé region called Gaspé. They asked us to change name, and we didn't argue with them. We went to 1844. This was the first report that came out of the Canadian Geology Institute that it started in 1843, and it was printed in 1844, and it was on the Gaspé region. So that's why we took 1844, and that's why our symbol is EFF for 1844.
You mentioned that the tonnage is quite large. And I just wonder, how does it compare with the largest tonnage in the world? Which is the largest?
You mean
tonnage?
about the Gaspé copper
Yeah,
mine?
So,
I'm not even sure there's something as large as that, 1 billion tons. I'm not even sure. I can tell you it's the largest mine in North America. I don't know. Because we don't know things about China, and we don't know things about Russia. And we don't know things about Congo. Congo has a lot of copper. Would you buy copper from Congo, where 8 years old child are working in the mines? So,
Alors, merci beaucoup, Sylvain.
so now follow up.
One of the main reasons I like Sylvain presenting here is both my parents are from the Gaspé, or were from the Gaspé. I know the area very well. I know exactly where he is. I've passed by the Woodardville place many, many, many times. So, merci.
Sorry if I was on.
Merci, Sylvain. No, not too long. You're going US time. Next company is called Tantalus Systems. The symbol on the venture exchange is GRID, grid. And here with us this evening is Peter Londa, President and CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Um,
There we go.
Thank you. We've got some presentations as well, if anybody would like them. Yeah, here. We'll pass, maybe you can just circulate those around to the extent. Otherwise, you can grab them on the way out. A few less things that I have to carry. So thank you, Paul, Sylvan. Thanks for educating me on the copper industry. The industry we focus on at Tantalus Systems is the electric utility industry, and what's unfolding in the copper market is very relevant. Just for point of clarity, we actually are traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, not the Venture Exchange. Ticker symbol is GRID, G-R-I-D. And so by way of background, my name is Pete Londa. I am president and CEO of the company. I'm not the founder of the business. I was recruited in by the board of directors in 2014 while the company was still privately held. The board at the time was made up of a number of venture capital firms that found me. Our largest shareholder still today is a venture fund out of Menlo Park, California, Silicon Valley, called Red Point Partners, that has ballpark $5 billion under management. They own about 16% of our business and are longstanding supporters of our company. In terms of my background, just very briefly, I am out of the investment banking space, so don't hold that against me. But at the beginning of my career, I started in New York City with an investment bank advising technology companies. And from advising those technology companies, after helping one of them in the software industry raise $35 million as a private financing, the founding CEO gave me a job offer in front of my boss at the closing dinner, and what made it even more awkward is I accepted. So that changed the complexity of dessert. But nevertheless, I left banking and started my career in technology on the software side. I'm not smart enough to write zeros and ones for code, but over the past 2 decades or so, I've been focused on how to leverage technology to make changes in industry. And specifically since 2008, been focusing on the electric utility industry and trying to really migrate and transform what they do and how they support each of us so we can be together tonight with power, which most people take for granted. So with that in mind, let me give you a couple of, I'm gonna let Sylvan come up and read my disclaimer since he did such a great job on his. I can try to summarize the company on one slide. And then from there, since you all have the presentation, we can make it available to you afterwards. I'm going to point to a few very specific slides and see if I can make you all nauseous by flipping quickly. All right, and hopefully this works out. And Sophie, thanks for standby. But at the highest level, we are a pure play technology company. Our technology is a comprehensive solution. We have 125 employees spread between Canada and the United States. Our largest office and headquarters is just outside of Vancouver in British Columbia. Burnaby is the town where our headquarters is located. We also have a small office in Canada, an office in Connecticut just outside of New York City where I live, and then an office in Raleigh, North Carolina. In terms of what we do is we build a very comprehensive solution. I'll get into details about that. That solution is sold directly to electric utilities, so that is our customer base. And to that end, today we support 270 utilities, most of which are in the United States, which is why I am from south of the border. So in addition to being a former banker, an American, even worse. So hopefully I can get through the cocktail reception afterwards without scar or injury. But with that in mind, when I joined the business in 2014, Tantalus supported 55 utilities. So we've seen significant growth of our customer base over an 8-year period. The purpose of our business, why we exist, is to help those utilities prepare for what's referred to as the energy transition. So as you all see mandates in Canada, similarly in the United States, other places around the world, where governments, environmentalists, members of the society, all of us included, right, are looking to decarbonize the environment, given extreme weather patterns that are unfolding. That has a cascading impact on the electric utility industry. And what the real challenge is not only decarbonizing, which has been happening for some time, but the simultaneous electrification of transportation and everything that we do. And so when we think about the copper industry and the amount of copper that's coming out of the ground to ultimately be put into electric vehicles and EV batteries, right, that has, right, most of us take for granted when we get home, we flip a switch on the side of our wall, the lights come on. We don't think about the utility unless A, the lights don't come on, then we're really upset, or B, we get a very expensive electric bill that we don't understand, and we're calling with fists of fury on the phone. All right, so what happens behind that? That's what we're focused on, is helping the utilities make sure that every time we need to connect our phones, our computers, our cars, or anything else, that there is reliable and affordable power. To that end, to give you some perspective on financials, we report in US dollars. So a little bit of an anomaly that we're on the Toronto Stock Exchange and reporting in USD. So I'll try to translate with Forex a little bit here. Last year, we generated 40 million US dollars of revenue, roughly 53 million Canadian. So we have some substance. Of that $40 million of revenue, about 12.5 million, or almost 33%, is from software and services. The balance is from edge computing devices. Of our software and services, 10 million US dollars is recurring. And that recurring revenue, when I joined in 2014, was almost zero. And so today we've gotten to $10 million in about an 8-year time frame, and it's growing at about 20% compounded annual growth each year. I'll come back to why that's the case. In terms of where we see growth of our business, in 2022, we've recently reported preliminary results. Audited financials will be delivered on March 14th after the market closes. But our revenue grew 23% year over year. Incrementally to that, we saw increases in our gross profit margin despite a lot of inflationary pressures unfolding. So it's a combination of the products, the price point, and the incremental software and services that are coming in at higher gross profit margin. We have $6 million of cash on our balance sheet, with another roughly $600,000 dedicated to a bid bond for one specific utility that we expect to see released at some point in the middle of this year. So we have more than adequate cash to continue to fund our innovation and our operations. In terms of where we see growth, there are three key areas. One is with respect to an aging workforce for the utility industry and an aging infrastructure. So a couple data points for you. A significant percentage of the utility workforce in Canada and the United States is at or near retirement within the next 3 to 5 years. So there is a brain drain that's coming. And the electric utility industry, even by some looks on the face, right, it's not a sexy industry. It's not one that young engineers want to go work for. My son has no interest in working for a utility. Google and Amazon, maybe. Probably hanging out and sitting on the sofa, higher probability with that generation. Will park my parenting skills to a later date. But right, it's so we've got a massive brain drain that's coming. Incrementally to that, another data point on aging infrastructure. The average age of a transformer, substation, pad mount, pole top transformers, they look like very big beer cans on a utility pole. The average expected life of those devices is about 30 to 35 years, give or take. The average age of transformers in the United States is in excess of 40 years. So we have an infrastructure that is dated, and it's getting stressed as more people plug in electric vehicles or electrify their homes more aggressively. So that's one big growth driver, is an aging workforce and aging infrastructure. The second is our consumer behavior. To the point of your brother-in-law, so thanks for that data point, Sylvan. You teed me up perfectly, right? Electric vehicles are coming. If I could predict the adoption rate, I'd be in a different business, and I'd probably be sitting in your chair trying to figure out how to invest as opposed to trying to raise. But at some point, maybe that'll be the case. And as we witness an electric vehicle showing up, it has an impact on the meter, the power line, the transformer, switches, all the way to the substation. And so as that unfolds, electric utilities are seriously concerned about the impact that electric vehicles will have on the reliability of the grid. The third primary growth catalyst for us is that while, regardless of politics in the United States, the Biden administration has activated an unprecedented amount of stimulus funding. Of that, there are 8 programs. I won't go through all of them. They're in the back of the presentation for your reference. 8 programs amounting to almost $400 billion of stimulus funding that's been legislated, and it is available for technology that we deploy today. So we are very actively working with an increasing number of utilities that are seeking funding and grants to accelerate their adoption of our technology as a result of concern, urgency, aging infrastructure, workforce, and electric vehicles. Okay, so let me spend a few minutes talking about capitalization. We went public in 2021. We raised capital with Canaccord Genuity as our lead banker, Cormark Securities as a co-lead, initially PI Financial as the first set of banks helping us go public in 2021. We raised roughly a little over 10 million Canadian dollars in a go public financing. TSXV, graduated to the TSX, filed a prospectus, and did a follow-on financing August of 2021, similarly about another 10 million Canadian dollars. In that financing, we picked up the support of Beacon Securities and Paradigm. And 4 of those funds today, or 4 of those firms, provide research coverage, which is on the slide for you and available on our website. We have 44.5 million shares outstanding. 100% of that is common stock. There are no dilutive securities or warrants in our cap structure. When we went public, we raised money in both of our financings at $2.25 Canadian. As we've witnessed the downward pressure on small cap and micro cap tech here in Canada, our stock price has similarly seen that downward pressure. So we're trading at roughly $1 Canadian, give or take a few pennies on either side of that, which represents less than 1 times revenue today. And from our perspective, creates a very compelling entry point for new investors. Our board of directors is made up of a set of professionals that either have been in the utility industry or ultimately have supported the utility industry. And I'd note our chair is a woman named Laura Formusa. In 2021, we were one of, I think, only 5 utility companies that listed with a female chair. Laura was CEO of Hydro One, a small little utility some of you may have heard of in Ontario, but a tremendous wealth of knowledge. Incrementally, Dr. Francis Harvey, COO of Westinghouse before it was dismantled, responsible for power and energy within Westinghouse. At the management team level, joined by a number of senior executives, collectively between management and board, we have, I think, almost 250 years of experience in our industry, either supporting, being involved in, or ultimately deploying technology at utilities. So pretty robust team relative to the size of our business. I'm going to fast forward again, just in the interest of time. We may have to ultimately, I'll stop there. Yeah, if you don't mind. So what do we do? Within the grid, some of you may be familiar with generation, transmission, and distribution, sort of 3 segments of the utility industry. Our focus is exclusively on the distribution grid. So that's where we all live and work. It's from the substation down to the meters on the side of our home. What we do is we deploy connected devices. Show and tell is always a little helpful. And when we describe a device, what we're talking about is a distributed intelligence edge computer. So if anybody wants to volunteer their iPhone, I'll be more than happy to break it open and it would look a lot like this. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, there you go. It's a good excuse. What you're looking at, yeah, so no, I know, I'm just kidding. We don't need to do that. But what you're looking at is, this is effectively like an iPhone, or even better yet, a laptop computer. Our intellectual property is embedded on this device. We manufacture these in Philippines with a contract manufacturer, so relatively low CapEx requirements in our business. And the brains of our system are this little silver chip, which is what's called a system on chip. It is a custom ASIC, which has a number of applications, silicone, RAM and flash memory, multiple processors for the parallel processing of data, much like your iPhone. So you can get a sense of what one of these looks like. I'll pass it around and start with you. If you break it, that costs $100 US. I'll be more than happy to take cash. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. It's hard to break, so don't worry about it. That device gets integrated into a meter that's on the side of your home. It gets integrated into load control switches, the device that can turn on or turn off power at the side of someone's home or a building. It gets integrated into distribution automation equipment, and it gets integrated into different devices all the way to the substation. And so what we do is we deploy our connected devices, those little things that have edge computing in them. We collect data from those devices, consumption, voltage, current, other power quality measurements. We take that data across a communications network, highly secure. We're very focused on cybersecurity in today's world. We bring that data into an enterprise software application. It's part of my background in terms of being involved in the software industry. And as we continue to evolve, we've built an analytics engine with some artificial intelligence to consistently run algorithms on all of the data that we accumulate. So across the 270 utilities we support, we have about 3 million of those devices deployed today. We capture about 30 billion data points per device a year, or excuse me, in the aggregate per year. And we run that data through an analytics engine to consistently try to solve problems and pinpoint issues. So the types of issues that we try to solve for utilities, a couple of things. We help them identify where trees are hitting power lines. Why is that important? When trees hit a power line, insulation breaks down. 2 things can happen. 1, power outage. We're all unhappy. Worse, tree breaks through the insulation and catches on fire. And in places in California, Arizona, Texas, Southwest, that's an increasing issue across the United States. So power quality, risk mitigation, two examples of how we pick up data from different devices across the entire grid. In terms of what's happening inside the home, some of you may have already started to upgrade through things like electric vehicles, rooftop solar, storage, backup generators, smart hot water heaters, smart appliances. And as we see things unfold, all of those devices are generating data every second of every day. And so what we've been partnering with utilities is to understand how to actually capture not only the data from the substation to the meter, which is where our history is, but how do we help the utility securely go into the home to capture all of that data? And so part of the reason for going public and part of the reason for ultimately raising capital was to help transform our business. The history of our business is on this side of the screen, from the substation to the meter. It grew at 20% last year, 23% to be more precise, 270 utilities, $10 million USD of recurring revenue. It's a nice growing business that can continue to generate cash flow and support our operations. In raising capital over the last 18 months, we've been investing in this device right in the middle. And from everything that we can gather, this is a first to market. It is a device that will sit between the meter socket on the side of your home and the meter, which is what utilities have focused on historically. And that it's referred to as a collar. If you follow us, you'll see announcements on the TrueSense Gateway. Some already, more announcements coming through the balance of this year. The TrueSense Gateway does a couple of things. It does everything that we do today on the metering side. We've added something referred to as bellwether metering or power quality sensing to a very, very granular level, all the way down to the side of the home. And we've coupled that with a Wi-Fi enabled chip and something called power line communications to help a utility for the first time go behind the meter with our permission as consumers to directly connect to an increasing number of intelligent devices. And the reason why that's important is if you think about places like Texas, California, even the eastern provinces here in Canada, when Mother Nature erupts, regardless of your view of climate change, we're seeing an increased number of extreme weather events that cause outages. Utilities can activate across our existing network to our new device, send signals into the home, and instead of having power go out at the entire home, target very specific assets. Example, turn off the EV charger in the event of an emergency or imbalances between the supply of power and the demand of power. Target electric hot water heaters, meaning send a signal, open up the relay or close the relay, force that hot water heater to heat, and then disconnect it from power for a 4, 6, 8 hour time frame. And through AI, we can track the thermal dynamics of hot water heaters so utilities can guarantee warm or comfortable water for an extended period of time and simultaneously take load megawatts off of the grid. And so this is the first time utilities will have an opportunity to actually have their own communication signal, not using consumer Wi-Fi, which has a reliability and a cybersecurity issue, and to go into the home or a building to start controlling an increasing number of devices. So where the rubber meets the road, pun intended, an electric vehicle shows up. I'll give you a case in point. Some of you may have seen advertisements around Ford's F-150 Lightning. It's their electric vehicle. It's a 19 kilowatt hour battery. That's the equivalent of 6 4 to 5 ton air conditioning units being added to the side of your home. So I live in Connecticut, outside of New York City, where we get a lot of humidity. I'm not all that economical. I've got a 5-zone home. That's like doubling the amount of power when air conditioning is needed. And so you think about the stress that has on the grid. It's going to impact my meter and my meter socket, which is going to get hotter, risk of fire. It's going to increase the heat of the power line. If a tree branch is hitting that power line, more combustible. It's going to impact the pole top transformer. on the side of across the street from my house, which dates back to 1988. I know that firsthand because I've spoken to the utility guys that have come out to fix it in previous outages, and they're fixing it, they're not replacing it. That device in 1988 was not designed to support 6 additional air conditioning units on my home. And that pole top transformer supports 7 homes on my block. One F-150 Lightning takes the power out for all 7 homes. It's a serious issue, creates great opportunity for us. So this is what we're working on. From an investor perspective, I own about roughly 4% of the company. You'll see through filings, I've been an inside buyer every quarter since we've gone public. In December, a little bit more aggressively with the tax law selling that we witnessed, unfortunately. And the way I look at it, CEO, from a management perspective, investor, individually, my own money. The history of our business is a good performing growth business that creates opportunity. It also creates some downside risk as I think about trying to manage through a pretty choppy equities market. As we get closer and closer to delivering on our new capabilities behind the substation, like this is an option to expand the business. And I'll give you some data points. The TrueSense Gateway is a device that we've been developing with 8 utilities, existing customers, and a few prospectives that are trying to solve the problem of planning for the electric vehicle charging infrastructure that they're seeing in their community. We have this device now in the test labs of all 8 of those utilities, not yet in the field, but in their test labs. Those 8 utilities represent approximately $200 million of incremental revenue opportunity for us. They're helping us design this. They're writing specifications to it. Does that mean we get all of it? No. But does it mean we get a good portion of it? Yes. And does that supplement the growth of our business, which is growing plus 15% projected for the next several years? Definitely. Incremental to the 8 utilities, we've identified about 20 other utilities that have made inbound inquiries to us. Those incremental 20 utilities represent over $700 million of identified opportunity today. So we see that we're in a pretty good inflection point. And as you track us to the extent that you do, you'll see over the coming months, through the balance of this year, the goal is to get our device through what's called UL certification into field trials to contracts, contracts to revenue. A good chunk of that will come from our existing customer base. So I know we're tight on time. I can dive into financials through questions, but I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to take a pause. Yep.
So any questions? Sophie's going to pass you the mic so that you can.
Okay, we'll start here and then I'll move over there.
The size of your chips, what are the size of chips do you use? And although you assemble in the Philippines, where are the chips made? Are they made in Taiwan?
So thank you. So the size of the chip is something we don't necessarily report on, but what I can tell you is, at least with respect to RAM and flash memory, we have about 32 megs of RAM and flash, which is more than adequate. I mean, iPhone has conditioned me to ultimately consistently upgrade my phone for more memory. I upgrade it because I think I'm going to look at photographs that I've taken from 7 years ago or 10 years ago that I never look at. And oh, by the way, I put them in the cloud. So I don't need the storage. But we've got really a substantial amount of memory as it relates to the type of data that we collect. We have, I believe it's 5, if not 6 processors. Our fabricator is based in Taiwan. It's a company called Faraday, and that's where it comes from. Yep, thank you.
Revenue-wise, do you see any possibilities outside of Canada and the US, or are you just going to concentrate on those 2 markets?
So as a smaller company, we focused on the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean Basin. We still see a lot of growth opportunity in certainly the United States in and of itself. I think as we expand, complete the R&D investment here, that will help us get back to the consistency that we had prior to going public of being positive EBITDA and positive cash flow, at which point we'll start to think about how do we reinvest some of that cash flow and positive EBITDA into taking our business more geographically around the world.
What kind of competition do you have for your grids?
Yeah, so thank you. So we have a pretty disaggregated market. We run into and we partner with some of the largest meter manufacturers in the world. There's one on NASDAQ called Itron, another one on the Swiss exchange called Landis & Gyr, and then a few divisions of much larger conglomerates here or in the United States on the New York Stock Exchange. So we have meter partners. Our device gets integrated into their meter, and then they have their own edge computing device. I think we do it a little bit better, and our mousetrap's a little bit finer. So we do compete with some of them. As we get into the world of AI-enabled analytics, we're starting to rub elbows with the likes of Oracle that are very focused on analytics, and some privately held companies in that capacity. And then as we get into the world of automating things behind the meter on behalf of utilities, I think we'll start to rub elbows with EV charging infrastructure company that's very focused on their EV chargers, aggregating that load to potentially bid as a virtual power plant.
Are you gonna have licensing agreements with these companies?
Yeah, so I think that's very much in the works, particularly with respect to our TrueSense gateway. The goal will be to get this device to as many utilities as possible, and then potentially incremental partners in verticals like the EV charging infrastructure space that we probably, have historically not really played into. But absolutely, I think there's a way to expand the revenue profile through license agreements, especially as we think about geographic expansion too.
Some of these substations and grids are substandard, as example, Texas. So how do you solve the problem there? I mean, that machine cannot help solve the problem, right?
Yeah, so Texas has got they say don't mess with Texas. We actually mess a lot with Texas from a technology perspective. We help about 8 utilities there. I'll give you a very specific example. When that winter storm blew through and brought the grid to a grinding halt, right? I mean, tragic. People died, billions of dollars of property damage with frozen pipes. We have some utilities that used our legacy, our existing capabilities, and what they did is they wrote a script in code software that as ERCOT, which is the regulating body over Texas, started to call for the reduction of demand, utilities went outside of Texas, the brilliant thing. They quickly wrote a script and started to automate through remote disconnect meters, meaning the push of a button on a computer terminal, turning on or turning off power at homes. And instead of having their entire community go black, which is what unfolded at so many places around Texas, they actually rotated homes. So they reduced the amount of load that their community required by almost 50%. And they rotated homes about every 4 to 6 hours. Really inconvenient. But they communicated, so everybody was in striking distance, neighbors, of having power. Most importantly, the refrigerator stayed cold. Insulin for people with diabetes stayed without spoiling. Electric hot water heaters came on. People's homes were heated for at least 4 to 6 hour window. That community came through, no loss of life, no substantial property damage, no asset issues. So that's an example. For the state of Texas, that's a big challenge for small company. For individual utilities, we got a solution for that.
Do you have any competition?
So the competition to the previous question is a combination of meter manufacturers, some of the large metal bending companies that have divisions of companies like what we do. And I think we'll see an increased number of high-tech companies that are trying to create sort of the aggregating demand here and bidding that back into the market as a virtual power plant.
Where's the squirrel, your mascot?
So thank you for that. I'll summarize. I don't know if we have, if any other questions I can answer. So the squirrel has 2 meanings in the utility industry. The first is, as we collect data, let me backtrack. If at the end of this evening, you go home as a beloved New York Rangers fan, you see the news that we've just traded to pick up Patrick Kane and create the best top 6 in the NHL. Don't know if we'll beat Boston, but I sure hope so, right? But as soon as you go back and you watch hockey or you do something else, you're going to forget about me and you're going to forget about Tantalus. If for nothing else, remember, Tantalus is collecting data to save squirrels. The way we're saving squirrels is by pinpointing where these little guys are chewing on power lines. And when they chew on power lines, they get electrocuted, they die. Arguably in my neighborhood, I'd prefer that to happen, right? But I'm an environmentalist, so I'll suggest that's a bad thing. So, right, we're trying to save the squirrel population. The other thing in the utility industry is there's something called a throwdown squirrel. A throwdown squirrel is an electrocuted squirrel that's eaten through a power line and died on the ground. when utilities have a hard time explaining why power has gone out, people come out, they get upset at their linemen. There are some utilities that we know quite well that have the dead squirrel in the back of their truck, and they conveniently drop the squirrel. It's called a throwdown squirrel. People come out, they're mad, they see the dead squirrel, and oh, the poor squirrel, the poor little bushy tail. Oh, well, it's okay. Well, can I get you a glass of milk? And so, right, so the squirrel is our mascot. We're trying to save squirrels one at a time, and I'm sure that's more easy to remember if everything else I've described makes no sense to you.
So we'll take 2 more questions.
Where does the bulk of your current expense come from?
Yeah, so the largest category of expense is in research and development, our engineering team, which is more than 50% of our employees. The second largest expense is sales activity. The third expense is our overhead. Yep.
I have a question for you. I wrote down, is this patented? Like what you're working on now, is that patented or
Yeah,
is that pending?
so thanks, Paul. So we have a collection of patents, trademarks, and then trade secrets. And so as a smaller company, we consistently evaluate what's worth patenting and then what we want to keep as trade secret, because there's a positive and a negative to patents. The positive is you have a patent, everybody consistently says, oh, that's great as protection. Protection is only good if you can enforce. So when we see multi-billion-dollar companies trying to move into our space, if we're giving our reference designs for patents, they automatically can potentially take that technology to build something, and we're going to be able to outspend a multi-billion-dollar business on enforcement. So we balance consistently between what we patent, what we have trade secrets on, what we actually trademark. Yep, and I'd say there's hardware and process patents.
You say you're from you say you're from Connecticut.
Yes, yes, sir.
Well, we play hockey there every year, and I'm wondering if when I go down there, can I ask them, or do they know about this? I go to Darien and Stamford.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with that neighborhood, I live in Rowayton.
Okay.
That's the nicer, that's like the smaller piece of Darien. It's right between Darien and Norwalk, and there's an ice rink right down the street from my home. You come on by, and we'll be able to answer any questions.
Thanks.
Oh, and I'll take you. I'll take you to a good seafood restaurant.
Yeah. Well, what about the nuclear industry? I mean, how can you relate to that? Because they need a lot of help.
Yeah. So we're not on the generation side. Our focus is on the distribution side.
Okay.
In theory, as we aggregate load at homes, we're creating microgrids at each home. That might offset the need for incremental generation at some point in time. Yeah.
Peter's going to be around. Like, let's finish off the rest of the wine because there's plenty tonight. I overbooked, but thank you so much, everyone, for coming tonight. And Peter, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.